A moment of great peril.
They've got to know we've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use.
Donald Trump makes a seemingly apocalyptic threat to Iran as the clock ticks down to his deadline. And closer to home, we run the rule of the Scottish Parliament election campaign. After 5.5 weeks of war, the US president today sharply ramped up his threats against Iran with an astonishing social media post warning a whole civilization will die tonight unless the country strikes a deal which reopens the key shipping channel, the Strait of Hormuz. The deadline for what he calls an acceptable deal expires in just 2 hours' time. Donald Trump's deputy addressed the media this afternoon.
I hope they make the right response, because what we really want is we want a world where oil and gas is flowing freely, where people can afford to heat their homes and cool their homes, where people can afford to transport themselves to work. That's not going to happen if the Iranians are engaged in acts of economic terrorism. So they've got to know we've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use. The President of the United States can decide to use them, and he will decide to use them if the Iranians don't change their course of conduct.
Well, as the world holds its breath, we hope to be joined from the United States by Errol Moorcoach from Republicans Abroad. In Italy is Dr. Siyavush Ranjibar-Demi from St Andrews University's Institute of Iranian Studies. And here in the studio is Professor Peter Jackson, who's the Chair in Global Security at Glasgow University. Thank you both so much for joining us. We do hope to get in touch with Errol, just a few technical difficulties at the moment. But Siyavush, let's go to you first of all. How seriously is Iran taking this threat from Donald Trump this evening?
Well, this idea of Iranian civilization being, destroyed was taken very seriously and was rebutted by Iranians across the spectrum, from very strong opponents of the Islamic Republic to its supporters. That being said, in recent hours, there seems to be some headway in the Pakistani efforts to at least bring about a ceasefire of a couple of weeks, which should go hand in hand with a reopening during that period of the Strait of Hormuz. So despite this very vitriolic and Iranophobic lexicon by Trump, we seem to have had some form of progress in negotiations. Of course, nothing is over until nothing is a done deal until it's actually announced. But these two things have gone hand in hand. The ratcheting up of very severe, insulting and revolting, really, language by Trump, and some form of progress, it seems, judging from what Iranian sources are putting out, on the Pakistani track for negotiations.
Peter, it's just astonishing, isn't it, that a president of the United States could use this rhetoric. A whole civilization will die tonight unless there's a deal. I mean, it was astonishing to hear that this afternoon, wasn't it?
It was shocking. It was shocking, Rona. There's no question that this is one of Donald Trump's least presidential, the things he said. I think it's also, evidence that he's pretty, it's almost, this hysterical language is that he's incredibly frustrated and doesn't understand why the Iranian regime won't knuckle under and give in to the pressure that they've been put under for the last 5.5 weeks. And
is this because his tweets at the weekend, or his messages on Truth Social, were quite insane as well, weren't they? Not insane, but they're quite over the top.
No, for sure. I mean, I think there's a hint of honesty in the one line. There was "open the effing straits" and "you crazy bastards." I think this is more sign of just how frustrated he is, that they don't seem to be playing by his rules, and they seem to have their own ideas about where they can take the crisis.
Siyavush, what did you think about the rhetoric that you heard coming from the President of the United States?
Well, certainly not presidential, certainly not fit for somebody of that high office. And above all, it seems really to go well beyond opposition to the Islamic Republic as a political regime or to the ruling clerics or IRGC or whoever else is fighting actually this conflict, but extended to Iran as a whole, as a concept, as a historical concept, as a civilization. We know that Iran is a millennia-old civilization, and as such, it really struck a chord amongst any type of Iranian, be it in favor of the Islamic Republic, opposed to it, in exile inside the country. It really, I think, it really gave the idea that the purpose here and the whole idea of this conflict isn't really some form of struggle against the Islamic Republic as the current political system. It goes beyond that, and it is really tinged with some form of deep Iranophobia, which we have seen both in Trump and I would say through the actions that Israel has had in recent times, also in terms of the Israeli military offensive.
I mean, Siyavush, Iran has demonized America for decades and says it wants to annihilate Israel. I mean, there's been strong rhetoric on both sides, hasn't there?
Yes, of course. I mean, there has been a lot of provocative rhetoric by Iran as well. However, Iran does not have the means to annihilate America, American civilization. It does not have the capacity to fire a single missile on American soil. But what we are seeing in recent days is a constant ramping up of attacks against Iranian civilian infrastructure. Sharif University, the Pasteur Institute, Tawfiq Daru, the medicine company, tonight an aluminium plant in Iraq, petrochemicals. These are all things that feed into everyday life in Iran, feed into civilian life, and should remain there even if the regime is deposed and another system takes over. Instead, what is going on, unless there is this last-minute deal, which is a possibility,
yeah,
is a scorched earth policy that leaves nothing. So this is very different from a rhetoric, of course, the rhetoric, and there has been, yes, very negative rhetoric coming out of the Islamic Republic.
Peter, what do you think the chances of a last-minute deal? Pakistan is trying to extend this 2-week ceasefire.
Well, I don't think that the Pakistani government would have gone public with this offer if they hadn't put out feelers to both sides and got assurances that their proposal will be taken very seriously. That doesn't mean we're going to get there in the end, but it leaves hope. And I think that the Trump administration and the president are pretty desperate for an off-ramp because the president keeps backing himself into corners with these ultimatums and these deadlines that never seem to ever be followed through on. And I think that once again, I think Trump would be very, very keen to exit this.
Well, yeah. Well,
standoff.
Otherwise, how does he get out of this? I mean, this is such a threat he's made. How does he back down from this now?
Well, I think for President Trump, I think it's really a negotiating tactic. The idea of escalating to the most extreme language to try and force the Iranian government to back down. And the Iranian government doesn't want to back down because they see the Strait of Hormuz as key negotiating leverage. And I think that what's going to have to, something's going to have to give. Both sides are going to have to back down a bit and at least have it, this 2-week period of ceasefire.
Yeah, Siyavush, something has to give. Someone has to give. Someone has to blink first.
Yes, of course. I mean, the main leverage that Iran has at the moment really is this chokehold it has over the Strait of Hormuz. And that is on the line, it seems, because the Pakistani deal apparently consists of a 2-week moratorium in the fighting and also the Strait of Hormuz opening up for 2 weeks while the negotiations happen. So Iran has to concede to that. That will probably lead to a sharp decrease in oil prices, to the energy situation stabilizing. And part of the Iranian strategy was this a constant tension in the energy markets and the potential of a spillover and a big loss in terms of energy provision in the West. So that is the card Iran has to play. But again, the attacks on the civilian infrastructure are becoming serious. So maybe Iran has to really get the pause in the fighting as well for a couple of weeks to recalibrate. That I think is also a necessity.
And Siavash, is there a fear at all that there would be a use of nuclear weapons?
That has been floated. It has been denied by the Americans. I'm not really sure that that there is this. I mean, Iranians clear after the claim that the civilization is going to be wiped out, anything goes. But maybe not. It's not a distributed fear, I would say.
Okay, we've got 1 minute left, and Errol has finally joined us. Errol, we've got 1 minute. We just want to quickly ask you: do you think Trump is going to follow through in this threat? Is it an empty threat?
No, it's a serious threat, and it's a serious threat that has been a long time coming. It doesn't mean he's going to use a nuclear weapon, but destroying the entire infrastructure, destroying the supreme leader, their top generals, the entire strategy of this is the opposite of the Georgetown School of Foreign Service, the entire last 40, 50 years of warfare. This is going back to Cato and Rome and Carthage, destruction being the currency and the fear of total destruction being what leads to change. 47 years of failure, Donald Trump is here to make that change, and he's going to deliver in one way or another.
But we've just been talking about how astonishing it is to hear a president of the United States using rhetoric like this. He's going to destroy a civilization. Is that presidential?
It's interesting because it's the rhetoric that they have been using on us for 47 years. For the first time in history, in modern history, we just flipped that around and used it directly at them. Is it uncouth? Is it unusual? Yes. But will it deliver the results that 47 years of failure has led to, which has led to the proliferation of all sorts of terrorist activities? And of course, the fact that if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, the proliferation of nuclear weapons throughout the Middle East is ultimately the goal. So it's a decision that Trump is willing to make. And yes, it's unpresidential based on historical standards, but it's about winning, not about delivering good optics.
All right, we will have to leave it there, but we were very glad to have a brief word with you at least. We'll have to leave it. Thank you all very much indeed for joining us.